All right, welcome back to the Fiscal Clinician Podcast. And today I'll be your host, Devon McCord. We are going to be interviewing Dr. Brian Jones. He's a longtime standing physical therapist out here in Hawaii. And this podcast is dedicated to all the clinicians out there that want to take control of their money, their careers, and ultimately live a debt-free lifestyle. And so Brian Jones, he's been through every phase of PT, and from dealing with his own serious injuries to graduating with student loans, navigating the traditional insurance-based systems, becoming a clinic owner, and ultimately making the big, bold leap to a cash-based physical therapy practice. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Brian Jones.
Aloha, everyone. It's good to be here, and thanks for having me on your show.
Likewise, man. Good to see you here, and we're just going to go ahead and get started at your beginning of beginnings, right? So we're going to go back to the good old days of PT school. Brian, let's take you back a little bit, right? And reminisce. You could see him smiling, right? So where were you in life when you started to think, hey, physical therapy is going to be the career for me? Right?
Yeah, so I could take it back as far as high school, right? Getting injured as an athlete, being in the athletic training room, repetitive injuries to my shoulder and wrist and back. I was always fascinated by my own injuries, and that's what kind of started the journey into the rehabilitation field. What did me in was actually getting hit by a car and developed a condition called spondylolisthesis. Sounds scary, but when you're a teenager, it's terrifying. But through the course of rehabilitation, I learned how to heal myself with physical therapists, right? So the writing was on the wall. I kind of knew right away that this is what I wanted to do. Little did I know that what a journey it would be to get all these degrees, right? So a little bit about back then, 20 plus years ago, you could get a physical therapy degree with a bachelor's. And since the field has changed, it was a master's, now it's a doctorate. Mm-hmm. So I went through all the steps of associate's, bachelor's, master's, doctorate on my journey to become where I am today, to get the degrees and accolades to do what I do.
Yeah, so was your bachelor's actually a bachelor of physical therapy at that time?
No, it wasn't. It was in this weird transition phase. I went to Kent State University, and I got my degree in Bachelor's of Science, so exercise physiology. And that was just a stepping stone to get me to Ohio State, where they had a master's degree program. But interestingly enough, I did a PTA program before that. So that was the associate's degree.
Ah, I see.
So I thought that I was just going to be a physical therapy assistant, which is an associate's degree. Mm-hmm. But then I realized, hey, there's more to this, right? I want the freedom and autonomy to be a doctor of physical therapy. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I transitioned to the bachelor's to learn about ex-phys. At that point, I was like just a stepping stone to get my master's and then eventually doctorate to finish it up, right?
Yeah.
Because getting done with school, I'm like, let's just get through this because I know the loans are going to be there. And every semester you stay in school, you can see the housing and lodging and food and books that adds up. Yeah. So I knew I was like, I got to push through and just get these degrees.
Yeah, you've had the real journey, man. Like
yeah.
You basically had a master's in physical therapy. Mm-hmm. And then once that doctorate autonomy level came out and they were offering a doctorate of physical therapy, you actually went back again.
Yeah.
And paid the doctorate route for school.
Yeah, and I was in Ohio freezing my butt off, and I was like, I got to get out of here. So I got accepted to this school called Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, Florida. And I had a unique opportunity to be a graduate assistant to help teach in the labs, right? So with the professors who actually became my mentors, working in the cadaver labs to help undergrads learn about the anatomy and physiology on cadavers, and also cleaning and just basic maintenance stuff. But I developed good rapport with the professors, and that's actually who I'm still in touch with today, who I consider my mentors. It was a wonderful process and transition, but the financial obligations do add up. And I know that's the predominant focus of your podcast.
100%.
But I got fortunate because they actually let me pay in-state tuition by taking this graduate assistant position.
Yeah, you have a really good story too. I mean, you started off as a PTA, so that also allowed you to already start making some income.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So working and going to school is kind of what you have to do. And a lot of college students that I have had as students in my clinic, they're always working. We're always working. right? So getting that hands-on experience while learning your trade was kind of the epitome of what I would highly suggest students do. If you can work in the field while you're getting your degree, then that's only going to set you apart from the rest of your peer group.
I completely agree with that. Like, I was a TA for neuroscience at the doctorate level, and it was just like, it was refining how much I know about neuroscience, right?
Yeah.
It's like I had a question, and then the students are asking you a question, and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Let me get back to you.
Let me get back to you on
It's
that one.
amazing what you forget, and I have to tell patients that every week. I'm like, it's amazing what I forget. Let me get back to you.
We have a brain, right, that
Yeah.
only has so much information
Yeah.
to maintain storage, and then it's, we
Yeah.
forget the little things. It's okay. We went to school for a long time.
Yeah, and like I
So-
tell everyone, it's a learning process every day, and if you're listening out there, just remember, you learn something new every day.
So kind of taking a deeper dive into the student loans. Most students, they'll look back and say, hey, I didn't really fully understand the financial implications of this degree and what I was getting myself into. And so how did student loans kind of factor into your experience while you were in school? Like you said, you kind of worked as a DJ, right? So let's maybe bring that up a little bit,
Sure.
So
So I was always fascinated by music, and I had a unique job in college where I'd be even getting my bachelor's degree. I was working at different bars and, college bars and playing Friday night, Thursday night, ladies' night. And so, like, I was making money and having fun as a college kid would, but it perpetuated me into becoming a wedding DJ. So I actually started my own company in college, uplighting photo booths. I had a team of DJs, and we'd go out and do weddings all around Ohio, and that went to Florida. So I was doing destination weddings on Florida beaches, and that's predominantly how I paid off my student loans. Because I was working on weekends, I was making good money as a wedding DJ, and that's really how I paid off my debt. That was the majority of it. Yeah, not all of it. That took a few years after graduation to complete that task.
what age were you when you were doing the DJing? Was this in your undergraduate, or was
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, it was 18 till I graduated at 23.
Okay, so this guy's hustling. I want everyone to make sure
Yeah.
that you guys are fully aware.
Yeah, it was no joke. I mean, it was full-on school, graduate level school as a graduate assistant, and working Friday, Saturday, Sunday as a DJ, right? So having my own company, setting up weddings and client meetings and doing sales and presentations and getting out there and doing that job.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the true mentality that I do think you need to get through school. So kind of take us back to once you got into graduate school, how much was that? Since you had your master's and then your doctorate, what did the costs look like at the graduate level?
It's not cheap. So when you're talking about semesters and a couple years, you're looking at, I mean, it depends where you go, right? State school's more affordable than private school. But even right now, I presume you're probably more up to date on it than me right now, but it's probably somewhere around like $80,000 a year, right? Because you go year round. It's 3 semesters. It's not spring and fall. It's summer too. So these programs for the doctorate level are all year round. So you're looking at 80, 90,000 a year. So typical doctorate program, I think, is around $200,000 right now. Is that right?
It just really depends on the schools, what schools you want to go to. The higher ranked schools are usually a little more expensive. I went to St. Augustine, which was a private school, right?
And that's way more expensive than
Yeah.
I paid, I think.
Yeah, I paid around $85,000.
Okay.
So, over the course of the trimester program, it's actually 2 years and 3 months.
Okay.
So
Accelerated.
exactly, highly accelerated program where, you only have a couple 10 days off and 16 weeks on. So, I mean, you're just grinding it out. But the way I looked at it was, if it cost me $85,000, I get out in 2 years and 3 months. Well, I've actually got another year ahead of everybody because most schools were 3.5 years.
Right.
Programs,
Right. Yeah. So I did this transitional DPT thing.
Okay.
So it was a little quicker. But either way, I knew that had I stayed in school longer, those loans would add up more. Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So you paid off a lot of your loans through hustling through your DJ job. You basically paid your undergraduate.
Yes,
through
that was
that.
all done. Yeah.
And then how'd you pay for your master's then once you got there?
So, yeah, that's what I was doing while I was in my master's
So
degree.
still DJing
Yeah.
right into the master's
At Ohio State.
at
yeah.
Ohio State. Great
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, it was
Going
cool,
on.
man. I did everything. Like,
Get everything you could.
Yeah, I was doing high school graduations and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and you name it, and grand openings. And like if someone hired me, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll show up. It was an easy way to make money as a college kid. So I couldn't do that now. A little too old for that. Yeah. But at the time, it was fun.
So you basically paid off through graduate school, and then now at your doctorate, how much money was the doctorate?
That's right. That was the hardest pill to swallow when I was looking at moving to Florida and starting over in a new state and not knowing a single person down there. I was like, well, I just packed up my car and moved. I had like a couple suitcases and my DJ equipment, and I was like, all right. So I drove from Columbus to Fort Myers, Florida, and I said, okay, I guess we're going to do this. And that was the hardest pill to swallow, was the financial obligation of committing to a doctorate level program. It was scary, right? Because you're looking at, I took out loans. I'm the first one in my family to go to college. And so I was like, okay, I got to do this on my own. And the only way to do that was getting federal loans.
So you went the federal route for your doctorate degree.
Yep.
And the doctorate degree was how long? Because it was a transitional program?
Yeah, typically it's 3 years. But they allowed me to do this 1.5 year kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you already had your master's set up.
But I did it in 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah, so because it takes time, and then you're working, and your clinical rotations, it didn't go as I had anticipated. In school, you have to do different rotations, whether it's ortho, neuro, outpatient, peds. But some of those got legged up and held behind.
Whole nother episode talking about clinical internships. It's unbelievable, the journeys we take.
I still think those programs exist, although I don't know, they might be phased out now, because I know it's pretty straightforward.
I think they're basically phasing out the transitional programs, or maybe keeping a couple open, right, for anybody that wants to get into master's to doctorate. But I think now,
because I think
level.
the rule was by 2024 you had to have your doctorate. I might be wrong on that.
So did you stop the DJing by doctorate level?
No, I was still doing it.
Still DJing through the doctorate. So you did it all the way through.
Yeah, and after.
Love it.
Yeah. Because I had contracts. I would book a wedding like a year out. And And so I still kept going. And it's kind of an embarrassing story, but graduate school is very difficult. And I'm sure you've had your moments of doubt.
100%.
I did. You fail a practical and you're like, I don't know anything. Oh my gosh. And you go back and you study and you get it. But towards my last semester, I was so busy with DJ work that I was like, I think I'm just going to do this. Yeah. Right? I was making a lot of money.
Yeah. You almost switched out.
No, I almost was like, I'm done. I didn't show up my last semester. I didn't show up to school for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
The dirt opens up.
Yeah, no. And my mentor, professor, friend was like, where the hell are you?
Yeah.
And he actually drove over my house and he's like, pull your head out of your ass, get back to school. You don't want to be a DJ the rest of your life. I'm telling you, you're going to have a better quality of life and help more people doing this job as a physical therapist. And I showed up. And I thank him for helping push me in the right direction to this day.
Yeah.
This is my own little office here, and it's changed my life for the best.
I agree. The rest is history, right? And
yeah.
I think it's a good thing for all of our listeners to know that this is a long journey, and there are going to be times where you doubt yourself, but imagine the quality of life when you get out. That's what I always say is I always thought about how much more of my life am I going to be in control? I'm going to be having a good paying job. I'm going to have a job where I can kind of select my hours, select my days of work. And I think if you just keep that in the back of your head, right, you can work anywhere in the United States.
Anywhere.
You can even go to other countries.
Abroad, sure.
Abroad. Mm-hmm. So I think when you doubt yourself, think about the potential that your lifestyle is going to drastically change once you have this doctorate degree in the palm of your hand, right?
So I had a clinic on the North Shore of Oahu for several years, and I had a lot of students come in for rotations because I was working for the World Surf League, and they always wanted to work with the surfers. So I was doing the tournament on the beach, right? Mm-hmm. So I had students from Australia, Japan, New Zealand, California, wherever. And the same principles apply. Once you get this degree, you could write your own ticket. The world's your oyster, as it were, because you get this level of education. As we were talking about before we started recording, the invention of AI. Scary, right? Taking over a lot of our jobs. But since our job as PTs are so hands-on, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, we are true hands-on clinicians. It's going to be forever before a robot can do human touch.
So I think if you're considering getting into a doctorate level program, it's a great field to get into. And I just had a student here for 5 months, and he just got enrolled in a program. So I'm excited for him to start his journey.
Yeah, I think that's so cool too. Like I've taken on students before, and I think it's one of the best things to give back, right? And
he's excited. He's pumped up. He's like, I can't wait. I'm like, you're going to do great. But the thing is he was terrified of the student loans. And I was like, man, it's part of the process. But the good news is there will be jobs for you wherever you want to go, whether it's Alabama, Hawaii, or Wyoming. You can go anywhere. And there's
I remember when I literally looked up what was the demand for a PT before I went to school. I wanted to actually make sure that the job that I was going to take next was going to be a very high demand in the future. And the average rate of demand was growing at a 30% level. The demand is high, right?
Yeah, and I think it's important for your listeners that we're currently on Oahu in Hawaii. It's a small island. But even on this little small island, I know a lot of private practice owners. We're friends, and people sometimes get scared about having the job security. It's there.
Yeah.
People need help. Everyone gets injured, right? So we all know someone who's dealing with pain, and the more people you know in this field, the more work you're going to have.
I agree. Like I have no fears of losing my job at all. It just as long as I be a good clinician and take care of people, right?
Yeah.
So, well, let's dive into the real nitty gritty here. Let's get into some business ownership stuff.
Sure.
You said you were working as a regular clinician, right? As on the North Shore doing the World Surf League stuff, or was that your own business at that point?
That was my own business. Yeah. Wow. I'll just give you a little background of how I started. So I was in Florida doing the DJ stuff, and my first job was out an outpatient orthopedic clinic where I was making very little money. Yeah. My first contract, I was like, what did I sign up for? Because I was seeing like 20 people a day, like burning myself out.
Do you remember the pay you were having?
Oh, yeah, man. It was sad. I think I signed a contract for like $69,000 a year.
So that's average though, right?
Yeah, but like, with PPOs and HMOs, they double up your patient schedule. So it's like every 30 minutes you're seeing someone. 10-hour days, you're seeing 20 people, right?
Yeah. What happened with me too was the same thing. I actually went back to Illinois to get my first job. And I looked at, okay, well, I want one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
I want an hour with patients, right? I went and actually looked at working for one of the top big A's. And I remember I walked into that clinic, had an interview. That place was willing to give me $86,000 right off the bat, right? And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a lot different than the other job was only offering me, I think, $66,000, right? So I went back for one more day to that clinic just to observe that clinic that was going to pay me more. And the clinicians were seeing about 3 people an hour.
It's insane. It's just a recipe for burnout, man. I mean, is it
100%.
Worth your body? I think not. So needless to say, that job only lasted 3 months. Yeah, because I was just like, I looked at what I was doing and I was like, this isn't it. And same thing with you. I wanted more quality of care. And a good professor of mine said, hey, if you want to learn more about being a better clinician, get out there, get a little lost. So in this world of physical therapy, there's travel PT assignments. And so I took jobs random places that paid a lot of money. So I wound up in Arizona, Nevada, California, and I was making really high wages. I think the highest I got paid was like $95 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, so you do the math, that's like $14,000, $15,000 a month for 3 months. So I made like $45,000 in 3 months. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I like this a little bit.
Right.
This is the right pay. We're supposed to try to get paid this much.
So I was like, wait. I was going to work a year for $69,000 and then I got paid for. So there's different routes that you can take. And so I'd work 3 months and take a month off. 3 months on, 1 month off, just to play around and explore. And then I remember being in California, and the clinic I was at was like, hey, we're hiring in Hawaii. And at that point in my life, I didn't even know Hawaii was more than one island. Right.
Yeah, most people don't.
I was like, yeah, I'm going to Hawaii. They're like, which island? I'm like, what? Yeah, I had no idea. Took a job in Honolulu, right? And they fly you out and put you in a hotel and a house and all that. And I just fell in love with the place. And I was working staff jobs at a couple local hospitals, and I got burned out again. That's what happened. I was happy to be in Hawaii, but I had an opportunity. That's a fun story how I got involved with the WSL.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was sitting there in a hammock watching the Triple Crown in Haleiwa, And a physician recognized me that I met at the hospital, and he was working the event that day. And he goes, "Hey man, aren't you a PT?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you want to work the event?" No one showed up. And I was like, I had like a beer in my hand, and I was like, and he goes, "I don't care, come on." So yeah.
Typical North Shore style.
Yeah, right. Hammock, beer,
yeah,
chilling.
This guy looks all right.
So there I am, just evaluating shoulders and taping people up with K-tape or whatever it was the case, just assessing them, getting them warmed up for their heat. And he's like, "Hey, come back the next day. Come back the next day." And then by the third or fourth day, he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, quit your job. I got a space you can rent up here." And that was it. Yeah. And I like that next day I called in and I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to work here anymore. I think I'm going to try this private practice thing." And I had to figure it out. There's so much more we can go into that as far as credentialing and accreditation and EMR. And it was a lot. It was a learning process to get affiliated on my own with insurance companies.
So that was your first step into the running your own clinic and with the insurance world.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing about surfers. Some have insurance, some don't. I first got affiliated with the World Surf League because when an athlete gets injured in a contest, it's covered. Right? But that's a little bit different than, say, Blue Cross Blue Shield or HMSA. That's a whole other process, or Medicare and Medicaid. So I had to kind of hold my own feet to the fire and figure out how that gets done. And that took a while for me to get that process sorted in my mind before I can hire other staff to help me.
Right. Mm-hmm. It sounds like one of the biggest struggles for you when you initially started your clinical ownership was dealing with insurances. Yeah. Take us through a little bit of the process of how long did it take for you to get credentialed?
Oh gosh, credentialing and contracting are two different things. So you'd start off by your paperwork and it would be about 3 to 6 months to get contracted and credentialed, and that's good.
For one insurance company?
Yeah, but I don't know how deep you want me to go into this.
Go deep, bud.
Okay, all right.
Have it.
So first, you have to get something called your PTAN number, which is through Medicare, through PECOS, P-E-C-O-S. And then you're applicable to apply for your Medicaid ID number, right? So you have to get your Medicare and Medicaid ID number first before you can apply for private health insurance companies. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Right. So there I was like trying to apply for HMSA, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And they're like, "You don't have your PTAN." I'm like, right.
What's a PTAN?
Yeah, right. Right. And your trading partner ID and all these different little things that you need to get these electronic fund transfers through these insurance companies. So that was the biggest headache initially, was trying to figure out these little subtleties of getting contract and credentialed. But I would say at about the 6-month mark, I figured it out. The referrals weren't a problem for me because I had befriended many physicians on the North Shore of Oahu, and we were buddies. Mm-hmm. So they were just sending referrals, and I'm treating and doing my notes and sending in claims. I had a biller. I would say the scariest thing was it took 3 to 6 months to get credentialed and contracted, and then it took an additional 3 to 6 months to get paid. So that was terrifying. So I had a business for 1 whole year where I didn't get paid, other than a few cash pay clients.
Right.
And that's how I survived. And I was still DJing.
Yeah. So guys always DJing. There's nonstop, regardless.
So I was doing weddings on the North Shore of Oahu at friends' parties and whatever. And I was still doing that because it's in me. I haven't done it for a while now, but like, you know, it's scary because when you don't know what you're doing, you have to do trial by fire.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good for listeners to know that this is a tough process to get going, but once you're in it, you still have some issues you got to deal with. You got to deal with insurance, and you got to deal with waiting on them to pay you back for what you charge for your visits, and it can be up to 6 months, you said?
Sometimes longer.
Sometimes longer,
That's right.
It's playing that insurance game, and it doesn't sound like fun for many clinicians, right?
No, because it's not guaranteed. Even with prior authorizations, I did all the paperwork. You'd get the referral, prior auth, see the patient, treat them, send in the proper documentation, and there's no guarantee that you're going to get paid or what you bill for.
Yeah, so I want to kind of elaborate on that. And how much were you charging to the insurance company? And then how much did the insurance company actually like reimburse you for a visit, right?
Yep. It depends on the insurance provider. So for Medicaid, Medicare, it's less. TRICARE, TriWest, less. So federal programs, they don't pay as well than private insurance companies. And you may get reimbursed about 40% of what you bill
Gotcha.
for physical therapy. So if we're billing $250 a visit, you're lucky to get around $120.
And can they dock more off you?
Sure.
And why is that? Is that because of the way your documentation is?
It could be anything. There's various things about insurance companies that I despise, and I won't be afraid to say it.
Yeah.
But there's third-party systems involved in insurance plans right now that are specifically paid to look at your CPT codes and your CMS 1500 forms to say that, we're not going to pay for the tooth Therex that day just because there's no reason. There's no explanation. Right. So you may bill for 4 codes and you may get paid for 3. It doesn't happen all the time, so I want to reiterate that, but it does happen. And then there you are on the weekend trying to call into the insurance company for 2, 3, 4 hours to try to figure out why you're not getting paid. And the reason I got out of the insurance world is because for 1 hour of treatment, I was seeing 10 people a day, so that's just 10 hours of hands-on time. And for those 1 hour treatment, you spend about 30 minutes documenting and then perhaps an hour to an hour and a half of follow through with your explanation of benefits. And maybe you had a denial, so you have to resubmit. So you're talking to your billing company, trying to figure out where you went wrong. So sometimes 1 hour of treatment turns into 3 hours of admin.
Right.
So at the end of the week, you've treated 50, 60 people, and now you got 30, 40 hours of admin to do. Mm-hmm. It just, you don't have enough time in the week.
Right.
You start to lose yourself.
Or you got to pay someone to go track down the money, right? Track down all the money from the insurance companies, and that just is another humbug.
And that's why I eventually hired an office manager.
Yeah.
And a receptionist just to handle the scheduling and phone calls. And there's a lot of variables that go into it. But in short, I burned out.
Yep, burnt out again, even as a clinic owner with more freedom, more opportunities. And
most people think more freedom. No, I'm sorry. I'll be honest as best I can, and it's transparent. I knew what I was getting into. I knew it'd be a lot of hard work. But when you are a business owner, you're committing yourself to that business if you want it to succeed. In summary, I burned myself out. And I think the average of doctors of physical therapy typically burn out within the first 6 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that.
I've heard that too.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. Mm-hmm. I think we all go through these phases of burnout, overseeing patients. And I think that's always why I've prided myself off, going to clinics that are one-on-one care for an hour. And I wouldn't even take an interview if you didn't do that. I would call these clinics and say, hey, are you one-on-one for an hour? No? Okay. I'd hang up the phone.
Yeah.
And just move forward, because it is a little bit about that lifestyle balance, so.
Yeah. And then the clinician you're seeing, they may be the greatest physical therapist. I've met tons of them. But the reality is if you see 20 people a day, you're going to be burned out and your quality of care is just
correct.
By the day, it just goes lower, lower, lower. And it happened to me. It happens to all of us.
Yep.
So that's why I transitioned to a cash-based only model, out of network. I want my quality to be top. I want to be on my game, and I want to give the patients the best care I can. And the only way I can do that now is by the cash model.
And how do you feel so far about how long have you been doing the cash-based model here on Oahu?
So 7 months approximately.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say I'm busy. It was scary because I developed all these relationships with physicians, surgeons, different doctors who only do insurance. And so I was getting the referrals, and I was booked out for 4 months.
Cash-based?
No, insurance.
Oh, insurance.
Right. Like, so I had people on a waiting list to come see me, which means I felt like I was doing it right. People want to come see me. It felt good. Mm-hmm. But I was also struggling with the fact that I was only getting reimbursed at 40%, and some of my claims never got paid. So I see someone like 20, 30 times, and their Medicare Advantage plan would be like, no, we're not paying you. And I'm like, wait, what? And they still haven't. I mean, I'm still trying to collect claims from April of 2024, right? Like it's January of 26.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Right. So no one talks to you about that stuff. So as I'd ask anyone, would you show up as a bartender and be like, hey, I know you're working 10 hours, but we're only going to pay you for 5?
Yeah.
Who would do that?
Nobody.
And that's what was happening to me. I was like, okay, I'm seeing 60 people a week because I was working Saturdays, and I only got paid for 30, and I'm doing all the admin. And that was kind of my transition point of like, I can't sustain this amount of workload to get paid half.
Right.
Literally for reimbursements, but also for denials. And the writing on the wall for me is that it's getting more difficult with insurance reimbursement and denials.
Essentially, it's just the wall keeps building up, and it's going to leave us, a lot of clinicians, with no choice but to move into the cash-based system or have a hybrid type of system, right?
Yeah.
But now you're full cash-based.
Yeah.
How many patients are you seeing now for a day?
4 to 5.
Great.
Yeah. And so it's time for me to get to the gym, have mental health,
Yes.
stability,
Yes.
balance. I know it maybe sound cliche, but I didn't take care of my physical health for a year and a half when I was doing the insurance stuff.
That sounds very familiar, right?
Yeah, I didn't get to the gym. I wasn't surfing. I wasn't hiking. I gained like 22 pounds. I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just working.
Yeah.
That's it. 7 to 7, 7 to 8, just private practice ownership.
Yeah.
It takes all of it out of you. I don't want to scare anyone out there. I mean, you help a lot of people and you do make money. Insurance companies do pay, but there's a lot of drawbacks to it.
Yeah. And I think what you're realizing, right, is the cash-based model has really provided you with boundaries you can set for yourself, your lifestyle, your family, and it may be scary as well. But I think, you know, if you're a good marketer or you start to really learn the ins and outs of how to be a true cash-based clinician, it sounds like it's a much better gig for you, and it sounds like you're happier.
I'm way happier.
You know, and you got so much time for yourself, you know, so I think that's super important.
So I was walking the cusp of, like, when I had my North Shore clinic, what I had done is I had hired other PTs and PTAs, physical therapy assistants, to help manage the workload. So here I was, do I hire another PT or PTA to help double up the patients?
Yeah.
And then I realized, man, that's what burned me out initially. It went from me seeing 10 people a day to having 20, 30, 40, 50 charts to review every night. So, you know, I had 2 PTs and 3 PTAs, so we were seeing like 50 people a day. And so there I was doing chart reviews, like 50 a day. And I'm like, I can't do this, and nor do I want to go back to that. I had the opportunity to do so, but I was like, you know what? I think I'm out. I think I'm just going to try the cash-based model. For the level of experience that you and I have had, I think I'm worth it. And that was the hardest thing to tackle, is realizing that my worth is there, right?
Yeah.
So I have things to share for people to learn, and I may not be the best, but I'm going to give you the time and the quality that I can.
I love that, man, because like that's one big thing, that we give so much to patients that we don't recognize our own self-worth sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember one of my instructors was charging $500 for a cash-based PT evaluation in California. He was a darn good clinician, and he spoke highly of his abilities, ultimately knew his self-worth.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think a lot of us clinicians need to remember is you went to school for a very long time. You're very well highly educated. You're very well in demand, but really understand that you have a true worth in the medical field, right?
Yeah. And we have our own specialties, right? Like I'm treating 3 doctors right now. And I don't know, I'm not a neurologist, but, you know, we have very meaningful, deep conversations about the arthrokinematics of the hip joint.
But these guys are coming to you for the arthrokinematics. These are very smart people, physicians, that are coming to you because they don't know. They didn't learn the musculoskeletal system to a doctorate level like we do. They don't know the biomechanics to a doctorate level like we do.
Yeah.
And that's our worth. You know, I think that's a huge, huge point. Well, awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for jumping on this podcast today.
Sure.
Yeah. Any final last words you would say to like a PT student?
Yeah, please don't take anything I said pessimistically, right? I love what I do, and this field's wonderful, and you're going to meet a lot of great people and touch a lot of lives and help people out. It's a growing field, and there's a lot more to learn every day. There's new technology that comes out all the time, and we're learning how to help heal the body a little bit better each year. So if you're struggling and you're in an insurance-based model and you have any concerns or questions, you can always reach out.
Reach out to Brian Jones if you got some questions on cash-based physical therapy and how to get started and move forward as a PT community where we are going to empower each other to get better, to constantly learn, to constantly grow, but also create the best quality care for people out there.
That's right. And that's our mission. And I know the focus was finances, but to add on, when I became a clinic owner, I started seeing more revenue come in, and that's when I finally paid off all my student debts, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I got that threshold of owning a clinic and having people work for me that I got that additional revenue.
Yeah.
So if I stayed a staff clinician, I was like, I'm never going to pay off my loans. It was like, not never, but you know.
Yeah, you think like you're never going to pay.
Yeah, and I was like, this is insane. So for me to pay off my debt, I realized that I had to get more money, and the way to do that was learn how to work the system and see more patients to get more revenue. And that's eventually how I did it. When I was around 26, 27 is when I became free of my debt. And I remember it was like the weight of the world off my shoulders.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. It takes a while, but you go through all the struggles first. You can't see the light in the forest yet.
Yeah.
You gotta knock down a couple trees. You got to move around them just to get there and see the true light and the true pathway of your career.
Yeah, I think it took me 5 years to pay off all my debts, which sounds like a long time.
Not bad.
But I know people who've been PTs for like 15, 20 years who still have debt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of getting on top of it fast and trying to tackle it so you can go live your life.
Exactly. And getting your feet wet with different avenues of PT. Try traveling PT where you get paid more.
Yeah.
You may not like it, but you may pay your loans
No,
off a lot faster.
I'm not
right?
going to say I enjoyed those jobs. I couldn't wait to leave.
But the paycheck was nice. Keep you to stay for a little
Yeah,
bit.
wound care was not for me, but I learned that. I was like, okay, this is not for me. So
Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for your honesty today and sharing your years of experience as, a real true clinician and a real true clinic owner. And for all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening, and tune in to the next one. We'll see you again soon. Aloha.
aloha.